Hello, algebra students. Just an FYI, you want your calculator and your formula sheet for this one. If you don't have it, pause it, go get it. All right, here we go. Find the radius to the nearest hundredth of an inch of a sphere with a volume of 3,200 cubic inches. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we are asked to find here. Let's start with that. So what are we being asked to find? Well, they say find the radius. The radius of what? Because I want to know what kind of a shape I'm looking at. A sphere. I'm looking at one of our solids. The sphere is the one that looks like a 3D circle or a ball. And its radius would be from the very center to the outside of the sphere. The length of that. And what do I know? Let's see. All I know is the sphere's volume. The volume is 3,200 cubic inches, which we abbreviate like that. All right. Well, why did I say go grab your formula sheet? Because we have the volume of a sphere formula. And no, we don't need to find the volume, but we have the volume and we need to find the radius, and that is in that formula. So what is that formula? That is V is equal to 4/3 times pi r cubed. And again, you don't have to have that memorized. You need to be able to find that on your formula sheet. Now let's plug in what we know. V is not a mystery. V, the volume, is known. And so I will replace the letter V with 3,200. Now, equal signs always stay steady, so that won't move. I'm not going to lose my numbers like 4/3, but I will replace pi with an approximate value, especially with the fact that I have these rounding directions. That tells me it doesn't matter if pi is perfect anyway. So I'm going to substitute the value 3.14, which is an approximation of pi, close enough for government work. Hey! And also they put it on the formula sheet, so permission to use it. All right, but I don't know R. R is the thing I don't know, and so it will remain a letter. And don't drop that little cube that's on the R. All right, so what happened here? We got a multi-step equation out of this sucker. Remember, we said the first wisdom principle is simplify if you can before you solve. First thing I see that I can simplify here is this 4/3 and this 3.14 are shoved together. They are multiplying. And you might say, Kate, I can't simplify that. I don't need you to know how to multiply together fractions and decimals. That's not even cute stuff. We can do that in our calculator. 4/3 times 3.14 gives me, interesting, 4.18, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to write out all the digits that I see in my calculator, but I'm going to keep that calculator in my number because let me say that again. I'm going to keep that number in my calculator because I don't want to lose any information. So that was 4/3 times 3.14. I still have r cubed, and that's going to be equivalent or equal to the other side. Now I know that I sang you a lovely little song about just keep simplifying, but be careful. A lot of students will say, well, now I will take this cube then and cube this number. Exponents are super duper weak. They only work on the number they're directly attached to. That cube is attached to the R, not the 4 point something something out front. And so there's no more simplifying to do. It's time to start solving. Now, remember, when we're solving, we're working backwards. So even the order of operations goes backwards. I'm going to move anything adding or subtracting with R first. Well, I don't have anything adding or subtracting with R. But the next thing I'm supposed to move is multipliers. So let's go ahead and move that 4.186, yada, yada. It's multiplying, so I'll do the opposite. I'll divide. And I'm dividing by this whole ugly thing on both sides. Okay, now I don't want to write it all down because I'm lazy, but I'm going to keep it in my calculator. I can't tell you how many students I've seen get their online homework wrong because they rounded too early. But I will put 3,200 divided by, and then I'm just going to use the arrow up function, my calculator, to arrow up to 4.1866666, and then I'll press enter to select it, and enter again. And I get another ugly number, 764.33, yada, yada, yada. Again, I'm not losing it. Even though I'm not writing it all down, it's still in my calculator. And what is that going to be equivalent to? Well, multiplying by this long, ugly thing and dividing by the same long, ugly thing cancel. So all I have left on this side is r cubed. Now, don't panic about, oh my gosh, what do I do with exponents? How do I deal with that? And don't just stop. Some students just stop here like, well, don't know what to do. That must be r. That's not r. That's r cubed. We still need to get r alone by getting rid of the cube. But we know the opposite. We know the inverses of powers. Those are their roots. So if I want to get rid of the third power, I use the third root. Or another way to say that is to get rid of a cube, use the cube root. So it looks like the square root, but there's a little 3 tucked into the check mark. And I will do the same thing on this side. Don't forget the little 3 on that side. Now, to type this into your calculator, you're going to need to type the 3 first. And then you don't want the square root this time, you want the xth root, but it's still in green, so hit your second button. And then the xth root is above the square root button. And then I will again arrow up to that ugly number so I don't have to type it, 764 point yada yada. Enter to select it, enter again to get the cube root of this nasty thing. And I see it's 9. Whoa, my brain and my hand just had a fight. 9.143, yada, yada, yada. And now, yes, that is equal to r because cube and cube root do cancel. Okay, I got r alone. This is solved. Only other thing to see is if there's any rounding directions. And look at that, to the nearest 100th of an inch. I want it to 2 decimal places. So taking a look at my answer, cutting it off after 2 decimal places, I'm about to throw away the number 3. It's not big enough to matter. I'm going to call that radius 9.14. And of course, it's a radius, which is a line, and so it's going to be plain old linear inches. All right, you guys. Woo, that one was tricky. Proud of you for sticking with me for that. All right, happy learning.